Unit 2 Economics, Day 4 Money Origins, your objective learning goal. By the end, you'll be able to trace the origins of money. Let's make some money. Well, we're not going to get rich. We're literally going to make it. We are going to create it. So if we go way back in time, everyone agreed that gold was valuable and they were willing to trade gold for goods, trade gold for services. Not very convenient to lug around gold bars. So you can chip them away, make them into small coins, and you can exchange coins. We're all good. We now have a currency that everyone agrees on, and you can exchange for goods and services. Then comes along a guy and says, hey, you got all this gold sitting around your house, not very safe. These are pretty wild early times. Maybe you want to store your gold with me in my vault. I'll keep it safe for you. Sure thing, good deal. Hold on to my gold. Here's your receipt. Bring this back to me at any time, and I will give you back your gold. It is a certificate of deposit. Just a little piece of paper, a little note that says, I got some gold in your vault. Now, what really is this receipt? What really is this certificate of deposit, this piece of paper? Well, you can take that certificate of deposit or that receipt and exchange it. You can exchange that piece of paper for goods and services. You just tell the lady, hey, this note says that you can take it to the vault and you can return it and exchange it for gold at any time. It's as good as gold. Guess what that piece of paper has become? It's basically the dollar bill. And then in the economy, rather than exchanging gold bars or gold coins, we exchange these little pieces of paper that can be returned to the vault at any time to get your gold out. And for most of our history as humans, these pieces of paper, these receipts, these dollars were always backed by gold. You exchange the dollar for the gold. Here's my dollar. Here's your gold. That's how banks worked. Banks had gold. You could exchange it. You get the picture. And there were different banks all over the place in all the different countries. And they would have their gold and they would have their dollars. And the blue bank has his gold and his blue dollars. And it didn't really matter what different currency you had, from what nation you had it from, what country, what feudal system you had. You could exchange those notes for gold. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Then everything changes because we can never have it simple and easy, can we? And there was also, at least in America, a problem with banks printing too much money at times, wildcat banks doing their own thing, printing more dollar bills than they actually had gold. And then when people wanted to exchange all of their dollar bills for gold, there wasn't any gold actually there. And so it was a pretty messy system. And eventually the government unified it all into one and says, look, we're a strong nation, we're a wealthy nation, we actually have a ton of gold, we'll control the currency. We'll have one single currency that we will then divvy out to the banks, and everyone will exchange our dollars for goods and services rather than a bunch of random banks everywhere that are unregulated, some of them just printing off all their own extra receipts, printing too many receipts. And then when people turn in the receipts, there's not really gold there, causing crashes and problems. We'll just unify it, we'll control it, everything is good, the dollars are safe, you can believe in the dollar, everyone trusts the economy, we're good to go. You can exchange your dollars for gold, and that's how America was rolling for quite some time. Got your dollars, exchange it for goods and services. That was before 1971. Then everything changes in 1971. Before, they could print money, but the money had to be backed by gold. They could not print any more or any less. So they were limited in what they could do. They were limited in how much money could go out into the economy. Every dollar that was printed was a receipt, is backed by gold. Now, after 1971, we get off the gold standard. Nixon takes us off the gold standard and says, you know what, we're no longer doing this. When we print money, it no longer has to represent an equal amount of gold because they said so. Wait, they can't just say so. This is a pretty simple rule. It's a receipt for gold. It's not a receipt anymore if it's not backed by gold. Yes, it is, because we said so. And now we can print as much money as we want. We can print more money when we want, and the Fed can print less money when it wants. High interest rates, low interest rates, it can control the amount of money in the economy So thus, the Fed can now control the economy. That's the idea. When you are anchored to the gold standard, you can no longer adjust the economy by printing more money through low interest rates or by raising interest rates and taking money out. They couldn't do that. They didn't have that tool. They were limited in their scope and their ability because they were locked, handcuffed to the gold standard. Now they're off the gold standard, and we have what is known as a fiat currency. Fiat meaning let it be, meaning it's a dollar because it's a dollar. It's not a receipt. It's not a dollar because it's backed by gold. It's just a dollar. Let it be worth something. Let it count. Believe in it. And the reason they do that is because, well, one, sometimes the government needs money. And if they're locked to a gold standard, there's only so much money. And sometimes the government gets themselves in situations where they really need money to pay for things to keep the country moving. And when you're locked to the gold standard, you can't get that extra cash fast. Now that you're no longer on the gold standard, the Fed can lower interest rates, pump a bunch of money into the economy. Once that money is in banks and in the hands of people, the government can borrow from banks, can borrow from citizens with bonds in the form of a bond, can borrow from investors. So you create the money, you get it out there, the government now can borrow it. And also when you have all that money out there, the government can tax it. And so they can generate more revenue that way. They could not do this before when they needed money. They were limited by the gold standard. Now we can put more money in the economy. And also the Fed says, hey, we can also manage the economy this way. We can prevent crashes. So on one hand, it does look like a greedy move by the government to do this. On the other, there is an argument that the Fed now has a little bit more control of the economy and can limit crashes. An example for a reason why we get off the gold standard is war. When, wars cost money, by the way, when you're on a gold standard, can't print any more money, can't borrow a bunch of money, and war is very, very expensive. World War II is very, very expensive. You need some tanks, you got to buy them from the factory. The government doesn't make tanks. They buy them from Ford, who turns into a tank building operation during a war. They have to pay for those tanks. They need money to pay for those tanks. If they're limited by a gold standard, they don't have so much money. What if they need more tanks? Well, we won't have any more money. There's no more money. We're limited by the gold standard. We need more money. During the 70s, we're in the Vietnam War. We need Huey helicopters. How do we pay for those? From the Huey helicopter factory. Well, if we get off the gold standard, start printing some money, borrow the money from the bank, spend the money, we got helicopters. That's one of the arguments for getting off the gold standard. War, great. Now going back to the idea of fiat currency, let it be done is the literal Latin translation. The dollar is worth something because we believe it's worth something. End of story. It's not a receipt for gold. As long as you believe and I believe, when we all believe, then it is so. Let it be done. Put our trust and faith into America, and a dollar's a dollar. It's crazy. Before, our dollars were backed by gold. Now, it's belief. And it was belief before, really, right? You believed in the dollar because you believed it was backed by gold, and it was. So it was a belief. Now you just need to believe, period. Just believe it's worth something. You believed it was worth something because of gold. Now you just need to believe in it. Now, before you believed it's worth in gold because we had the gold. We were a strong nation. You believed in America. You believed in the dollar. And the gold was a big part of that belief. Made you feel comfortable in your belief. After 1971, the government says, we don't really need that gold thing anymore. The real thing is the government says it's just a belief. Did you really need the gold to believe in the dollar? Did you really need it? Was it really something you're constantly thinking about? You don't need to believe in the gold anymore. What you really believed in was us. You believed in America. You believed in the dollar. You never even thought about gold. You didn't think about gold before. You're like, I don't know if it works this way. It's supposed to be a receipt. I believed in a receipt. Yeah, but you never really thought about it being backed by gold. In fact, you were never really exchanging it for gold anyway. Were you cashing in your dollars? Now, some people do. Some people believe that this made-up fiat currency is dangerous and a bad idea. That's why people purchase gold. That's why people purchase physical assets or invest in Bitcoin. They don't believe in the dollar. They believe someday people are going to stop believing. And if everyone stops believing, then believe it or not, the dollar's not worth anything anymore. That's some people. The government says, don't think about it so much. You're not exchanging gold anymore. You don't think about gold. You think about the dollar. That's all that matters. Dollar's dollar. Don't think about it too much. You always kind of worry when someone says, don't think about it too much. But that's what they say. And this enables them to print money when they need to print money. And for the most part, we still shop with the dollar. As long as you believe, I believe, she believes, they believe, then the exchange will just keep happening. And no one even needs to think about the gold. As long as the US government exists, and we all agree that the dollars have value and can be used, then everything is fine. A dollar's a dollar. Who cares? Now we can manage the economy better. So if everybody believes in it, and you believe in it and I believe in it, and we have been since 1971, this is our system. So the money went from a receipt to just money being money, or the dollar went from a receipt to being just a dollar. But as long as we're willing to exchange it, it works. And with this scenario, the Fed can lower interest rates and get money out there, and we can deal with jams, and they can take money out when inflation is happening. And if all goes well, everything works out. This tool did not exist when we were on the gold standard, when we were using receipts backed by gold. That, my friends, is the origin of money. And that is where we are now. From a receipt to a fiat currency that is stable for the most part, but it is a fragile situation at best.